Hello guys, and welcome to the ArchiSpaces podcast. This is a podcast started by the architects chapter of the AAK, and it's geared at giving architects a space to basically express themselves, discuss, inform themselves about what's happening in the industry, and basically to give us a place to have a chance to discuss outside of the formal meetings which we have at the AAK. So today we are shooting this episode at Space and Style at their new showroom at Broadwalk Mall in Westlands off the Cliffy Road. And would like to thank them for giving us a space and also providing us with breakfast as we shoot this. My name is Stephen Lutta. I'm the secretary of the architects chapter of the AAK. And my co-host today is architect Wycliffe Waburiri, who is the chair of the architects chapter. And we have a guest with us, architect Michael Orengo, who has graced the first podcast episode where we'll just be talking about housing and, everything to do with housing and affordable housing and the politics of the same.
My name is Wycliffe Waburiri. I'm the chairperson of the architects chapter of AAK. And I'm very excited that we are doing this today. Stephen and I have been talking about this for quite a long time, but finally it's happening. We want to discuss everything, as Stephen has said. We'll be talking about the politics of construction, I think.
Yeah.
We are talking about the building code. We're talking about Africa Climate Summit.
Yeah.
We are talking about affordable housing, housing levy, and all these things. Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Hello. My name is the architect Michael Orengo. I am an architect who has been working in Kenya for the last 6 years. I began a career in one of the older traditional firms, Triad, and now I'm working for a developer. I'm currently a project architect at 88 Nairobi, which is this big tower we can all see in Upper Hill coming up. I'm a studied guy from the University of Manchester, where I trained. I did my architectural studies, and close to what our topic is today, we actually did a lot of study of the town of Liverpool, where we used to study social enclaves, where they had built public housing for people who couldn't afford housing in those British cities in the early days. So I think that will help us and guide us in what we are trying to touch on today, as Waburiri has just said. So a little bit about the project that we are currently doing. That one is focusing more on housing for upper class demographic of people. For instance, an apartment there will a 2-bedroom apartment in the project that I'm currently working on, which is 88 Nairobi, would probably be around 20 million Kenya shillings. That's for about 100 square meters of space. We would also have studios which are going for around, at this current market rate, going for around 15 million Kenyan shillings. And we have, for instance, penthouses, which can even climb up to a fee of, I think, well beyond even the 200 million, 300 million Kenyan shilling mark. So there are certain elements to the discussion of what are you paying for when you're buying an apartment that is that high. You start thinking about, are you paying for the views of the city? Are you paying for the experience of the development? Are you paying for amenities that are included within the project? And so this is a very interesting discussion as to what you're getting when you're starting to live in a building such as the one that I am currently working to complete. For instance, any regular person would ask you, I'm going to buy that apartment for 20 million Kenyan shillings. What can I get in exchange if I was on the ground? And I'm sure, as we all know, when we get to thinking about it, you could buy a piece of land and also build. You can also build a mansion with that amount of money.
But again, essentially, you will not be that close to the city, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. So
this is the discussion, especially about the project we're talking about. It has a market segment it's catering to. And also, like you said, the demographics, you definitely will not be able to afford that kind of money if you are not in that kind of demographic.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see how what you're saying, your studies in Liverpool, social housing for that matter, the lessons you picked from there and how the same can be applied to affordable housing program in Kenya.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, for instance, now we are in a situation in Kenya where we know that the Kenyan government is trying to implement affordable housing.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of policy on the same topic. It's just that what we know about affordable housing right now is that the demand far outweighs the supply. Yes. And government are obviously, through Vision 2030 and the Big Four agenda, trying to implement this affordable housing. But is it really meeting the needs of everyone? So for me, what we studied, again, was particular to demographics. You build affordable housing for different sectors of the
economy.
The economy. So for instance, we should have, what I've read is in Kenya we have for urban low, we have for urban middle, we have for urban high. But it's not very, I think we need to create a different category for, extreme poverty, a level for people who are currently not even included in that.
Homeless.
Yes, number one, we can start even with homeless. How do you cater to their affordable housing need? Because there's something about saying we're going to build the types of affordable housing that is currently being built, which are good buildings. They're concrete structures. They are the correct size in square meters of what is required, but that is for an urban low, urban middle. What about the extreme poor? For instance, as he has said, the homeless.
Yeah.
We need housing. They need housing as well, and there are categories after homeless. We have also dwellers. So dwellers, where are they included in the not necessarily in the policy, but in the implementation of the projects.
Yeah.
So for us, as now this, let's say, committee of guys who want to start to push for these agendas, we need to also ensure that those sectors are also being implemented for projects. So as I was saying, there's that category that you've mentioned, homeless, and then there's a category for dwellers.
Yeah.
One of the best projects I believe I've done is I implemented a school in Mathare through my former firm, where you raise money, and it is the industry who
Come together to
donate, contribute money, and we managed to build a school, a whole school, 4 stories, called Genesis Joy Primary School, and it is now a fully operational school. But it came for a sector that would otherwise not be catered for.
Yeah.
So,
but even before we get into that discussion, the first question for me is: do we need affordable housing?
I think we need it.
Or do we need? If you listen to the government, you listen to the president, and what he's been saying, he's saying his ultimate objective is not affordable housing; is to provide jobs for many Kenyans who are jobless. But if we narrow down into the planning, and I would like to look at it as the broad planning of government, in the order of priorities, is housing the main priority?
I would say housing is definitely a requirement. Housing is even a right, I think, under the Constitution. And I think just the way they're doing it is what's different. For example, we should have definitely affordable housing, because the thinking is that affordable houses being bought off by citizens. And rightfully, as you said, there is a segment of the population which have actually oversubscribed to the available units. So that need definitely is there. Government should not run a scheme to make money, and even if they do make money, that money should go to now another category which our very famous member, Maude, or Niji as it's called, has always called social housing.
Yes.
I think we should segment the government's priorities into two.
Yes.
Have affordable houses where people can, of course, people can afford to buy affordably. That means a 1-bedroom for 1.5 million, whatsoever. But then, refugees, as Michael puts it, the guys who can't buy, let's do social housing for them. Let's do houses. They will not own it. They'll be more like those dwellers. They will not own the housing, but they will
Lease. Yeah.
at very affordable prices. I think Borax led a delegation to Austria at some point, and he studied.
And shocking.
They studied social housing, and the experience there was that the social housing, there's a stock of houses, social housing, but then this social housing is given out to members of the public, also depending on the demographics. So, for example, if you have left campus within the last 3 years, the same house that you would rent for 20,000, for example, you rent it at 5,000 because the government realizes you are, in your early years for campus.
Yeah.
So the older you get, you work for 5, 6, 7 years, then your rent sort of like increases until you now transition out of the social housing category, go to affordable.
But that means, I would want to go back to my original question.
Yes.
In the planning of government,
Yes.
has there been a research that has informed the decision to run this affordable housing program? Because for me, I think even before you start building, you must have done your needs assessment. You must have established that there's the dynamics around what you're doing actually work. Now, in the sense of the affordable housing program, I don't think there was adequate research that informed. And in fact, this should have been done by the universities. The universities should have been invited because they do research on a daily. Where I work, Jomo Kenyatta, we do, students do projects around social housing. I mean, housing in general.
Yeah.
So by the time you're making the decision that I want to build 2,000 houses, 200,000 houses
And yeah.
a year, you are informed by ABCD. And so my argument is government needed to have information around what the program is about. If I go to the projects that have been done, if you go to the Park Road, I don't know if you guys have been there.
I've been there, actually, even
How successful
under
is it?
construction. I've not been there during the
Occupation.
but I've seen the construction. From a design point of view, I have so many comments.
No, I think logically, let's say this, the need is there.
Yes.
But the approach
The approach.
government has taken is what is questionable.
Yeah.
Especially when now you talk about involvement of our members, even in participation. Now that you bring the design discussion here, the issue is the need. The need is there. And I believe the government had good intentions when they came up with this program, even in the initial government on the Big Four agenda. The thing is, we need to give Kenyans as citizens the dignity of saying we've been an independent country for 60 something years, right? So the need is there. Yeah, the need is there. The approach, I think, is what is lacking. So I think going forward, the government needs maybe to do exactly what you say, involve research in their decision-making process. Like, this is the research that's coming from the universities or from any other person who is doing the research.
Yeah.
And then use that research in partnership with bodies like the AK and the EBT.
And even development partners.
Yes. And basically involve these players in the sector to define the needs. A very famous member of the chapter, Professor Minya, talks about it very vocally in news. And I think he has a point. The need is there. Involve us as professionals, as academia and everybody else, to consider the modalities of how to implement the housing bylaws. Now that there's the housing tax and the housing levy, which I hear is supposed to collect something like
77?
Is it something close to 80
billion, yes.
Wow.
I think then there's still an opportunity for us to engage government as members of the AK, as members of the architectural fraternity, as architects, developers, and what have you, to sort of like streamline their process, because then we can
But
do a quick
how-
research,
how-
do a quick research of Park Road,
Yeah.
which you're saying
Folks.
which we in agreement is not properly executed,
Yes.
and then feed back this information to government. They just tell them, look, you did this without involving us.
You know, the question is, these projects are being implemented as we speak. Government is already sending tenders out and inviting bidders. So at what point shall we be engaged to have this feedback that you're talking about? Government has 5 years to run this. So if it is already rolling out, I don't think there's an opportunity for us to engage and have a meaningful discussion around it. It's bullish. It's bullish on how it's doing it, and I think it is determined that it's going to deliver. That's one. Number two, the private developers that are contracted to do these projects. I think there is a disconnect between what can be done as a government and what is being done through the private partnerships. Because government is actually saying it's not building. Government is providing the environment for construction. And then you find private developers who are actually doing this and making a profit. Yet they have been given incentives, including land, public land, and I'm sure you'll hear about, in a few years, you'll hear about cases, people going to court claiming this land was grabbed by government.
As Lutta was saying, needs analysis, I think, they were always conducted and the ideas were good. But me, I still go back to how is it being implemented. So to answer one of the questions is, there actually is a directorate for monitoring and evaluation for these projects. So what we are actually seeing is that the affordable housing projects, even if we have this needs analysis done, they are still not meeting those 200,000 annual houses that are supposed to be built, right? We are still not meeting the target. And I believe what they are doing is the previous government was showcasing or over advertising the two that were completed.
And by the way, there are only 30,000 houses built.
And you see what the target
the
was.
5 years.
What we should be even now asking questions about the whole situation is money is set aside in a budget for a certain amount of houses. But we are seeing those 3 or 4 very well done projects that are catering to not even all those demographics or segments that we had already discussed. So this exercise that maybe we should even be doing is now more, okay, you said you wanted to build this many, you built this many, now explain. Yeah.
So basically auditing.
And also the uptake. We need to establish the uptake.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Registration now.
So basically what he's saying is that the AK should involve itself in sort of like an audit of government, what government has done. But essentially, I think considering what construction is, there's still opportunity. This government will not be able to do another 200,000 houses, even the next one and the next one. So I think there's still an opportunity to always review and inform the process. And at some point, architects in the AK will be involved. So I think the critical thing is there's also a very clear distinction about what the previous government was doing and what the current tenders out there are doing versus now what should be done in the new tax. Because remember, this new tax, I think, has just been collected for 2 months. And that money has not yet been appropriated in terms of the government has not fully decided what it wants to do with that money that they're collecting. So what they're doing right now, as you correctly put it, is creating an environment where private investors can come, get land, build, recover their cost, and get some little interest, on top, and then release these houses to the public. But remember, the bigger conversation is, once now we've done a year of housing levy and housing tax, where should this money go? Because there'd always be that review process. And I believe as the AK, we are squarely right in it. There's a discussion and, committees being formed about I think there was a proposal to have a housing board or directory or something. So our voices will always be heard. And I think even on this podcast, we'll always have this discussion. Maybe next time we invite a guest from ministry.
So
they can, they can shed a little bit more light on what government wants to do on housing. But I believe we still have an opportunity through this space, through the AK, to guide this discussion and basically talk about housing and get as many of our members as possible involved. Now, my final question to you, and this has been a very big debate between myself and Waburiri. Government in doing this housing project has not done measurements, has not done, low-rise.
High-rise.
Yes.
They have done high-rise developments. In history of architecture, we learned about the hills doing haphazard high-rise developments, Prutigoi and things like that in the US. I know it's an ongoing discussion, and even between the two of us, we still discuss and argue about it every day. Now that you're doing 88, which is going to be the tallest residential structure before Nairobi,
Not even in Africa.
in Africa.
Because the distinction, and not to cut your question short, distinction is it's like Santon. There's a tall structure in SA called Santon. It was mixed use, but it's the tallest that has residences, right, in the whole of Africa. But this one, because it's purely
Residential.
it's now gets that moniker.
So do you think then, and considering the prices of land in Nairobi, considering the pressure we have on urban sprawl and everything and facilities, do you think then, considering the fact that the city needs to be compact so that services can be provided, security and sewer, refuse disposal, water, all these things, do you think that the future is in high-rise construction, especially when it goes to when you're talking about residential construction? Because I know it's an idea for everybody to build their nice bungalow in Karen, in Runda and everything. It's not practical. So do you think, and I know I'm leading into this question, do you think it's the future that
You probably have an opinion already.
Yes, I'm asking you to comment on that very big question. I know it's good to rebut.
So I'd like to just touch on what you said on we don't do this huge low-rise developments. Major nets, especially you mentioned. Although the Kenyan economic the context of Kenya, in the 70s and 80s, for instance, we did beautiful Buruburu that was targeted for a certain demographic that worked at the time. It was wonderful. But as you've mentioned, land prices soared up, and the premium of space it's extremely high these days, right? So, for instance, still on the where I'm working, the developer has also done a project called Karen Hills that caters to those just the needs of someone who wants one house in a plot, and that works very well in that context. Now, to answer your question on whether I believe a project like 88 makes sense, I think for the people that it's catering to and the location, a project that, number one, is it brings 300 apartments to Upper Hill into that one piece of land. So even if you did a very basic calculation, if the land prices in Upper Hill right now for that 1 acre are at 500 million Kenya shillings, perhaps there's a very wealthy individual who can afford to buy that piece of land and put one house. But I think even given the context of how land is overpriced in our country, let us also look at it in that way. I believe a project like 88 then makes sense for the price of land that you're sitting on. When it comes now to the infrastructural needs, I think a project like 88 does not conform to our initial land use and the infrastructural plan for the city. The answer is that no, it is not supposed to be there according to the original plan for the city. But now we are in a situation as the architects who are going to form the way we move forward in execution for the next 50 years, we are in the position of having to rezone, replan, and reform these these plans and zoning One thing that now developers are doing is that they are expanding infrastructural needs. So for instance, in our project, because the sewer will have to be redone, so we're going to widen that sewer, and we're going to connect it.
The developer is paying for this.
The developer will take up the cost of doing an expansion for the sewer line and connect to the existing.
So it's a good thing.
Essentially, the developer really needs to take into account those elements. In addition, for instance, roads are completely dilapidated and also small in that region of the city. So the developer will also widen the road. But I agree, and I had this discussion with an elder citizen who thought the idea of 600 cars on that road of where we are, it is crazy. So there will definitely be an additional weight on that.
There's pressure on
that weight. There's going to be additional weight, especially in that region of Nairobi, once the project is done, especially vehicular movement.
Yeah.
We all know that in Kenya, people drive one car, one person. One car, it's heavy. But the aim of the developer was that the people working in this building will be walking to work. Yeah. He's targeting lawyers, he's targeting the people who are within that upper hill region. And maybe that goes to another point of promoting something that Kenyans don't do very much, which is walk to work. Everyone who, I think you guys are well traveled in Germany, in Europe, you see how bicycles and just walking is a complete...
It's coming up in our discussion, both of us who are in Copenhagen.
Yeah. But I'd like to hear your views on that type of building as well.
I know. He's going to ask for my rebuttal right away.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to ask him to respond to the question.
Well, I think for me the discussion has broadened, and my thoughts around this whole development and urbanization of Nairobi, not even Nairobi, let me say the country, needs to be discussed in the context of a master plan. I think we as architects are just a small piece in the puzzle. Mm-hmm. We have to have a national special planning. Mm-hmm. And then from that plan, we cascade all the way to that small plot where I'm doing my house. And in which case, you must, if you're going to do development like what is happening in Upper Hill, I believe there should have been an urban design for the entire area, even though physical planning.
A sectional master plan for Upper Hill.
For Upper Hill, with urban design. And I say urban design because like you saw, in Europe, you have designed the building, you have like an idea of how this entire street will look, even before you narrow down into that particular plot.
Yeah.
So for me, the haphazard development is what, for me, it's crazy because you're going to do an apartment in that area which originally was not designed for apartments. Yes, we agree that urbanization is catching up.
Change is constant.
Change is constant. But for me, I think that plan, the initial planning, should have informed what is going on right now. And all of us agree that land here is crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's overpriced.
Yeah.
And it's overpriced for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
So I would have imagined the development, and I have no problem with urban sprawl. But if it is planned.
If it's planned, then it becomes a problem.
Yes. Yeah. If you think about it, Nairobi and Thika are connected. Just drive along Kiambu Road.
Yeah.
You'll find now between DCI and Kiambu Town, there has been
there's no distinction.
Yes, a lot of development. In fact, it's this small section of Karura that has
remained.
Yeah. And then go to Gong Road. Gong Road, if you're coming from community all the way to Karen. Now, the problem I have is just because there's a road, people have put up tall buildings. It doesn't make sense. It should have been planned earlier, prior, and then the entire streetscape can be designed, and therefore development is not haphazard.
Yeah.
So I I think it is okay that we can do our tall buildings, but should have been in the context of a master plan.
Yes, I agree with you entirely. I think in the context of, if you look at what's happening right now, and this is real time, what's happening in the industry, there's a proposal by the Nairobi County government to, create the 5 boroughs. And then maybe as members of the AK and as architects, we can use that as an opportunity then to inform the spatial planning that you're talking about, so that we have these sectional master plans before individual developers do it. But the problem in Kenya is that government functions or government work has so much politics intertwined with it, so that something that is a planning function, something like rezoning, and we have new zones that have been done in Nairobi, but just passing it through the Nairobi County government, county parliament is a problem. So politics is what has in a way hampered the proper planning of the city, but also there's a lot of interests in this day. But the reason I asked that question is because when you talk about the CBD as a zone and the zones right outside the CBD, for example, there's a whole master plan that's coming up for Railway City. I don't know if you've seen it. It's areas which are low density right now, like Shaurimono, next to it, Lanmawe. All those places are currently zoned as low density. But what that project is attempting to do is to do a master plan for the whole subsection of the city, and then invite now private developers together with government interests to come in and develop following that master plan. So, for example, Motoro, I know, has been rezoned as social and affordable housing. But again, because of the pressure of the land, I'm not in it has to go higher. And that's specifically why I asked that question in the context.
But you see, what you are saying is, and you are agreeing with me.
I'm agreeing with you.
The master plan.
There is a plan, so you're not. This been this thing on social media where a neighbor had to build a wall, a 9-meter tall wall to block a neighbor because
Badman block.
Yes, because see that area was not zoned. For high density.
That's true.
And so now, what is that telling you? It's telling you that there's a disregard for the original plan. And that is what is happening in Upper Hill, that is what is happening in Lavington, in Neshua, all these places. So the problem is, we do not follow the same rules that we set for ourselves. So if you're going to do a tall building, it's okay to do a tall building. You can do high-rise everywhere, but within the context of the plan.
There's also the issue of the previous project that was approved becoming the precedent. So now in Upper Hill, close to the building we're discussing, there are 2 other 20-story plus residential buildings that are coming up. So the precedent has been set. The developers, it's a free-for-all before a signed, stamped new master plan has been issued. The only other thing that would help for the framework of our country, county governments do not have some approved spatial master planning. So they, in their respective zones, need to actually assent to getting their master plans approved and the different zones. Because I had a very interesting situation where we attempted to build a student housing building, and once it reached the approval stage, for instance, the local society, for instance, the local community decided at the point of approval, this zone, it's not supposed to be a zone for a student housing. It's only a zone for single dwelling houses. And they defined it by, they said, you see this stream? This stream is the... No, it's in Machato, Mavoko.
Yes, Daystar project.
Yes, but it's Daystar right next to the university. We were attempting to build a student hostel just 60 meters from the university. But the residents said, we do not want a student housing of 4 stories.
Do they have a county? Actually, all counties have this.
But
a spatial and zoning.
But I think the problem is that counties don't have the capacity to enforce these CIPDs. The thing is, even in Nairobi, the process of rezoning the county has been done. But then that document being ratified is the problem. And that's why today's discussion was politics and housing, because really the politics is hampering the planning processes which inform the housing. Right, as you put it rightfully, architecture is just a very small portion of the whole planning process. So the counties do their county integrated special planning with the planning. Then we do the sectional planning, zonal plan. For example, what you talk about, you say CBD plan, and that's why in the CBD your setbacks are different than in Gara or in Upper Hill or in Kilimani. So we need those sectional plans. And rightfully as you put it, and maybe we can even discuss it at this point, when we were in Copenhagen for the trip for the International Union of Architects Congress, Copenhagen itself as a city has been highlighted this year by ULA as the world capital for architecture. Why you walk the streets are totally planned. We walked into a hotel, literally a hotel, and it has a model master plan of the whole region. So like you can talk about Westlands. So you walk into the reception of a hotel and it has a Westlands, for example, and it has a master plan model of Westlands, buildings that have not been built. So you walk around the city and you remember, from the hotel lobby on that model, I saw there are 20 buildings going to come up here. And what is it right now? It's open parks. What do they do for their streets? Bike lane, walking lane, the side, and then you have the traffic. So it's totally planned. The street design is just absolutely.
And you're forgetting the metro.
And then of course there's the public transport system is very effective. The thing you said about in Kenya, everybody having a car, or myself, I have a car and I leave. My wife lives in a similar direction and leaves the house. Another car. So then what they've done is that there's a very high premium on personal transport. So the public transport is subsidized, and then of course everything works. So they mostly walk and then use their bikes. So I think if we were to learn from such experiences, we'd bring that back here in terms of activity.
In fact, sorry to cut you short, government should have done that plan and allowed investors to invest in alternative businesses, because instead of doing an apartment, if I'm given a project to do a railway, that can become an incentive for development. And government doesn't need to do the railway. They can allow private players to invest in these projects. If you go to Copenhagen, you have, these are residential area, these are park, this is commercial, and I don't think all those things are owned by government.
I don't think they are private. In fact, it was very evident that their planning is very intentional. You can have two commercial buildings set to each other, but the moment you do a residential building, on both sides you have to put green spaces.
That park can be private.
You can imagine. You can imagine how the city looks like. Because then on each side of
there has to be something green.
You have to get a green space. You have to get somewhere for kids to stay, play. And then, as Waburiri was saying, it's very intentional. The street facade is sort of planned even before this building.
Exactly.
So by the time you come to plug in your building now,
you actually, this is red, this is black,
this is green, even the colors. Even the colors.
Even colors.
On the street. They are pre-planned. So I think the special plans that we are calling for county governments to engage the AK to give them the capacity to basically plan and discuss some of these issues is very important when you talk about what needs to be done in terms of first of all a cogent plan being there before now us as architects coming plug and play. But of course the moment politics lags behind what needs to be done and developers still need to make their money, they are always influence the decision. And unfortunately this country, because of rules of natural justice, if my neighbor has built a 20-story building, there's no way you're going to
sell me not you.
I heard of a story where somebody was forced to sell their house because the neighbor had built a high-rise building. So the buyer, of course, had the option of buying the building and the piece of land, but they rejected the building and they offered to buy the land only. So this guy had suffered losses because there's no way they were not going to develop that piece of land. There's a high-rise building right next. They sold the land minus the house.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'd like us to talk very quickly about the rest of the things that are happening in the industry. First of all, there's the Africa Climate Summit, which I want us just to give pointers and talk about and its impact to our profession and to, what's happening in our profession. And then after that, I would like us to talk about the new scale of fees. So there's a new scale of fees for architects and quantity surveyors that was released by Orengo.
Great.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Able to chime in and give us your talking points on that. So let's start with Africa Climate Summit.
Yes.
So, Nairobi hosted probably one of the biggest climate summits that's been hosted in Africa or even in the world this year, which is the Africa Climate Summit in Nairobi earlier this month. And of course, there's a lot of good things. You saw the president riding in electric vehicle, which to my mind, I don't think is practical, but that's a discussion for another day. So give us your pointers. What do you think about the impact?
I think, sorry, let me dive in. I think for me, the positive, number one, is now government is broadly discussing green energy, broadly discussing the effects of emissions and effects, climate change in general. But there's this thing that we as a chapter initiated, the Grow a Class initiative, project, which plugs right into the discussion of carbon credits. And people are not, I wonder how people are not seeing that this is an area which we can easily monetize as a country. Grow a Classroom initiative is, as the name suggests, you grow a classroom. You're growing trees which can then be used to, number one, provide infrastructure for schools in terms of classes, in terms of furniture. The same can also be traded, and you make money that can sustain education. And considering that we have more than 55,000 public schools, and you can imagine if all these schools just gave us an acre of land to plant trees. It's very easy to start trading the carbon credits. So I know it is not part of the SES, but it fits into the discussion of SES. And I like that government is being intentional. I hope the talk they are going to walk the talk. It's not going to be the same discussion. We have this declaration signed and then that's it. I hope they can also even support our initiative. Yes.
I mean, that's a very brilliant initiative, and it's new to me. I've had it here the first time. The one thing I'd touch on about the ACS is, as architects, fortunately, we have been trained through the 6 years to always think about climate first. And for me, in my experience, it comes through the discussion of sustainability. And one thing that I always hold on to is, as we develop, we're supposed to meet the needs of our own generation while ensuring that the future generations can meet their needs. And the ways of doing this is obviously by implementing green building systems. But
strategies.
The challenges that I am experiencing and I've experienced throughout is we can give all the best ideas that we are already trained to give, but execution from developers, especially when it comes to the cost, you hear about doing green strategies. They believe the initial startup cost to even get accreditation or to, let's say, put that wastewater treatment plant, probably to invest in solar strategies, the startup cost is expensive, but in the long run, it's way cheaper than the conventional ideas that because now maintenance is low. So I completely think the ACS was a great initiative. It's just we should not speak, but we should do.
You should walk.
Yeah, I think myself, I'll speak now on the other side because I'm a certified green building consultant. So basically, it's true. That's the challenge which we face with a lot of developers. But I think this discussion needs to go in 3 different points, right? Number one, we're talking about what Waburiri has talked about, the carbon credits. Carbon credits are very valid because then we have an opportunity, because Africa is largely developing, to to create markets for ourselves to sell these carbon credits. I'll give you an example. 1 acre of land can sustain about they call it around 2 units, and 2 units, that is around 80 trees. Guess what? Every 40 trees you get around $50 per year from it, just by the tree being there. So the thing is, first of all, we need to educate people, because people don't know anything about carbon credits. Most architects you talk to and ask them about carbon credits, carbon trading, the issue of carbon sequestration, or even, when we discuss sustainability and design and architecture, we talk about the carbon impact. So guess what? Our industry, the built environment, construction and everything, produces 40% of global greenhouse gases. So we are squarely right in it. We are the ones who are creating this global climate change. So I believe every architect needs to appraise themselves of what the green building movement is. At least get yourself one of the accreditations, if it's IFCH or LEED or any of the other ones that are out there in the market.
And we have ours.
Yes, Safari Green.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to understand what's happening in the whole cycle of the carbon credits and what have you. When it comes to landscape developments for projects, recently we were with Waburiri at a forum for road design. Basically, we were coming up with a road design manual. And the question is, there are so many trees that get cut to do roads, but then they don't plant back these trees. So there's so many aspects to this discussion we can do it. Number 2 is I think there is a concerted effort by government and the other governments in Africa to create a carbon market for Africa, whereby then it can be actualized, I think, within the next 2 years. So once that is actualized, you can get a carbon trading professional. I'm not a CPC, but I'm working towards it. Then they can come and quantify your carbon sequestration, give you a certificate, and then you can go with it to the market and receive money. Because the idea is that those guys who are creating the carbon emissions in the developed world, there's something called a unitized carbon emission rate. Basically, everybody, you as Michael, you've driven here, we can calculate your in a month. This is the emission. That's why you hear the president talking about a carbon tax. So there will be a carbon tax which calculates how much carbon they are producing. There will be an upper limit. Then after you pass there, you start paying tax on it. And that will help people now move. This theories we're talking about public transport. Move back from having too many cars. Public transport. Now, then that money now is paid to the guys who are having forests. So it's a carbon market. So there's the one paying the taxes. Taxes go to a fund, and then the taxes go to pay the guys who are actually helping the globe.
The most interesting is that carbon tax is affecting demographic of the society that can pay. So
of course, us will not be that much affected, but people in the West actually will be the ones paying the taxes because of the upper threshold. And then that money will come to Africa. So it's sort of like going to stabilize our economies, because if you talk about GDP, GDP is the gross product of your market, right? So if you include this as a section of GDP, a lot of GDP in African countries will rise up. Think of countries like the Congo, which is 90% forest, and all that carbon sequestration, they'll have a very high GDP, because this is something that's actually being monetized. So that's the discussion about the market. And then number 3. I said number 1 was the carbon credits education. People need to learn about it. Number 2 is the carbon market. And number 3 now is the green building. So green building and sustainability is very important, because then, as I've said, 40% of what we do right during construction was 40% construction. We have not even talked about maintenance of buildings. Like a building, the use of a building, they say over the lifetime of a building, it actually spends 3 times more the amount it costs to build it. So maybe the answer to those developers who say green building strategies are expensive is twofold. First of all, the more people use a technology, the cheaper it becomes. Remember, in the 70s, computers were damn expensive. Now they are very more affordable. Number 2, it pays off. So what your consultant will be able to do for you is to give me the calculation and tell you, okay, you are spending 2 million shillings extra, you pay it back in 2 years, and then for the duration of the project, You will have lower maintenance costs because now you're using solar rather than electricity. You are recycling water, maybe using double circulation systems, using biodigester systems to recover most of your water and more total view. And of course, finally, the whole movie is, it doesn't take long for somebody to understand this when you give them the advantages, the developers, because most developments which are certified green now can access green finance. There are banks, I think the IFC is now working with KCB, Equity and Absa Bank in Kenya to offer loans to green construction. So get your building certified.
The bonds.
We give you they give, IFC gives the bonds to the bank, the banks give the finance to the developers.
Kwetu is a simple, I think it was from the bonds that they secured financing of the project.
So basically, if you are going to get financing from the bank at 80%, they'll give you at 11% at 10%. It's cheaper, it's better terms, and it's because you are certified green. That's number one. Number two, those buildings usually have a higher premium. Think of it this way: if I'm renting a house and it's green, and I know during staying there I'm paying less utility bills, you can upscale my rent, right? If you're the landlord, rather than me telling you no, but I'm spending 20,000 per month on utilities and service charge. You've had the discussion about service charge in Nairobi. So ultimately, for developers, balance sheets, they look better if your building is green, because if you're a landlord, you charge higher rent, and then of course they are premium. All the green buildings around Pigiri, by the way, have been taken up by diplomats and people around the UN. So of course there's a premium to it. So I believe if you work with a consultant, like a building consultant, as a developer, they'll be able to highlight the benefits of green building.
So Kenya signed.
Yes.
The declaration.
So the declaration was good. I believe it's a work in progress, and the government is, as I've said, working towards that carbon market. I believe things will be taken seriously once money hits our accounts.
Yes, but also
once the government stands in parliament and says this year we have earned 1 billion Kenyan shillings from a forest, bony forest, or something, then people will now start taking this thing
serious. I think for me, government needs to be the leader in this. If they are not doing their bit, I don't think the public will do anything. And also, you talked about carbon tax. I would wish that context is local, so that when you're talking about carbon tax, we are addressing, ourselves rather than the West. Interestingly, we are saying we are going electric, but there has been very little investment around the infrastructure for electric cars. There's also our roads. If you look at our roads, they are not one of the best. And if you have the option of cycling, I think you are signing a death penalty for yourself in Nairobi. I don't think I would want to cycle around Nairobi with these roads.
Actually, I know someone who passed because they were knocked on Thika Road,
Yes.
But that brings us back to the discussion of planning. So I think once we have all these sectional plans done and effected, Nairobi, I think they are planning by next year that they'll have the boroughs thing done, so that then we have localized government. So that, for example, if you go to Southlands, which is Langata and Langata constituency, and is it what's the other one? Langata, and I think the Goreti is it south?
South.
Yeah. So once you have that, and I think you saw the document, they even have plan have the
leadership structure.
Yeah, the headquarters and the leadership structure. Then you'll be able to do a local plan within Langata. And if you are living in Langata, for example, I'm using Langata because I bought in Langata. So if you're living in Langata, for example, they've given.
And you are a national fan.
And I'm a national fan.
And so is Bab.
We say. So if you have a localized plan, then if Langata manages themselves better than Eastlands and have the bike lanes, again you are attracting people to bring investment to your localized unit. So I think the discussion about green building and all these things, it's nice, but it's so many facets to it, which I think we can discuss as we go in future days. Good. Michael,
Yes,
there's
sir.
a new scale of fees to architects.
New scale of fees, yes.
Basically, they bought Borax have advertised a new scale of fees, which it tends to guide the public on the fees that architects need to be charged. I'm saying need, because in this country it looks like we coax developers into accepting us. So what do you think? What are your thoughts about?
So there's a new scale of fees. I think it's a good time for it to have been published, actually. It's probably the first revision.
It's the participation, yeah.
And it's a good way to generate discussion with our clients. But one thing that I like about it is that it has separated the scale for the scale of in percentage of how much you're to be paid with the value of the project. And obviously, you cannot charge. A person would think they should charge you more if you're doing a larger development. But this new pay scale says you will get a higher payment if you're doing a smaller project. And we all know as architects, and also for our clients out there, when you take up doing a small residential house,
it's a not
especially something like a renovation, it is extremely harder than when you have what we call tabula rasa. When you have an empty site that you can design by yourself, because you, on the empty big site, you plan everything, where everything goes. You are the one creating the framework, infrastructure, and network. But for these smaller, older renovations or smaller projects, you need to be considered in the sense of the difficulty or the difficulty of doing that smaller project. So I like that segregation of the fees. So the percentage of doing a smaller project is higher as it currently stands. And I think, you see, with the scale of fees, we go back to the issues that now probably Waburiri can discuss, or you can discuss of now the culture of architects in Nairobi, Kenya. Undercutting. Yes, of course, you know what I'm going to say.
In fact, I'll surprise you. Last week on Saturday, a lady called me, a random lady, I didn't know her. She introduced herself and she told me she has a project she would like to do with me. So she invited me to go to the site. Actually, she called me on Friday. So we were scheduled to go to site on Saturday. And then she asked for my fees. And I sent her, I told her I charge 6%. Let me just read the message she sent me in response. It was very interesting. And I told myself, this is the public you're dealing with. These are the people who should be informed of our new scale of fees. And there's the hourly rate that the scale has introduced. I was so surprised. This is the message. Hi, Anne here. We spoke today morning. Sorry to message you so late. I've discussed this with my partner, and I don't think it would be fair to engage you, as we may not manage to do the 6% fee, considering we are so cash-strained and there are more affordable options in the market. Yeah? My sincere apologies. I would have loved to engage you, but the math is just not mathing, so we'd have to cancel the meeting tomorrow. I'm sure another option will present itself in future. But
the math is not mathing. Math is mathing.
So let's get this clear. The problem, we have two problems, I believe, in this country. People don't have an issue with doctors' rates, for example. Why? Because it's standardized and all doctors have accepted that they're going to follow the scale of fees. So, for example, right now, I believe it's 4,000 shillings per consultation for a specialist, and I think 2,500 for a general, physician, a GP. And all doctors follow that. The problem is with these scales is that we introduce them and then nobody wants to follow them, simply because we are reacting to the client. Yeah. And I believe what needs to be done in this country to even stop undercutting, because believe me, it's very difficult for practitioners. And I mean, we face this on a daily basis. It's very difficult when when you're a private practitioner like myself who runs a farm in this town, and then 2 clients have come. First of all, getting clients in the office is an issue in young practitioners. So 2 clients have come to the office and you said, no, I can't do anything less than the 6%, or you negotiate based on, that scale, and you say, no, beyond this, it will be impossible for us to service you. And then 2 clients, 3 clients, 4 clients, 5 clients. What will you do?
And you need to pay bills.
And you need to pay bills about staff in the office and things like that. That's what pushes people to undercut. So we are not necessarily saying architects undercutting with a problem of their own making. It's a global problem, because just as your client has said, there's options in the market.
There's more. What did she say? More
options.
Options. Let me just
affordable
options.
Yeah.
So the issue here is undercutting, yes, but you have to contextualize undercutting. And we proposed, remember the meeting we initially proposed to have the Baraza.
Borax.
Proposed that maybe this thing can be solved by Borax.
And I had suggested,
In fact, it's good,
yes,
but it's not as important as
enforcing. I suggested this, and we've had this discussion with Lutta for a very long time. This is radical thinking.
Yeah.
That the board stole our idea of the SOP, the standard document. There's a contract.
License, they're listening.
It's okay. That idea, it was originally our idea.
It was.
Yes. The board now has the contract document for engaging clients. They said they will allow us to register every new project we have. We register with the board.
Yes.
Now I believe this contract indicates fees.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
So you know the value of the project. You know how much you're supposed to be paid as a consultant, and the board is aware. Why can't we allow, or why can't the board take up the initiative and say we will enforce by collecting the same way NCA used to collect the levies. They collect this money on our behalf.
Yes.
They take their collection fee. You can even say a percentage of that amount. They can even add on top. And then they also connect the same to KRA.
To taxes. They collect taxes and give you whatever.
Yes. So they have solved the problem for government.
Yes.
For me as a consultant, and even the board, they will not be doing CBDs. They'll have a lot of money because, we are like 2,500 architects.
Correct.
Assuming all of us have projects worth 10 million on the lower side.
That's
government is collecting money.
The board will be rich.
I think that proposal, we gave them the proposal. Remember the days when they introduced the blue card, the national bank card that we were supposed to have by the board. I feel like it's time for them to act. Get some of the proposals that the ANK and members of the AK have given them and enforce it. Because I believe when the board, again, they've done all these case studies. They went to Spain and there's this huge issue of undercutting and quirks, because part of those more affordable options are quirks. People who are running ArchiCAD in some dingy printing modes. Maybe they have run ArchiCAD for 10 years and they feel like they're designed. And that's partly why we have so many buildings in Kenya. The general quality of the built work is very low because people don't follow up on that. So they went to Spain, and the Spaniards told them, look, we collect fees. We register all projects before a project is approved. Then you have to register your contract, consultant's contract with their version of
the board.
And then the board will give you a clearance later after you made the initial payments to calculate. So they can solve it, as you say, exactly simply. It's create a platform. You don't even need to feed in the cost of the project. Remember the initial portal, the Kanjo portal, you used to fill in your square, your area. And it gives you the
generates.
This thing can be automated.
You're
500 square meters.
It gives you automatically. This is the amount.
You're using 30,000. That would be automatically 15 billion. Kanjo automatically calculates how much you're supposed to pay to them. So using a similar system, then you pay your QS, you pay your architect,
all these consultants,
and then you'd have to sign that yes, you're going to pay them this money, and this, these are the staged payments. And then Borax, as Waburiri has said, we probably need to get a whole other department of just following up on payments.
Enforcing, and it's simple.
It doesn't matter if they take 2% of that money.
To contact KRA.
Yeah.
KRA is very efficient.
Yes.
You know, you will not run away from KRA.
In fact, KRA has these guys who have trained here in KDF school in Eldoret.
Yes.
Who are now going to...
There are 4,000 of them.
Yes. So we can actually link Borax, KRA and our accounts. Because, by the way, you see the way advocates call themselves advocates of the High Court. They are agents of the government in that way, agents of the judiciary. We can actually make ourselves classified as agents of government, helping the
collecting revenue.
Agents.
Remember,
It makes sense. Yeah, it does.
and remember the construction built environment contributes 7% of GDP in this country, and that is the reported numbers. There's a lot of dirty.
All of the people who are doing work.
There's a lot of hidden money in construction. So if we mainstream this money, we bring this money frontline. Oh, you want to get an approval in Muranga County? Visit Borax offices. Visit the Borax website first. Register who your consultants are. Get a note from the Borax office and then come back to the county board. If you cannot mainstream this system together, KRA, I believe will be...
You know, you don't even need to go all those places. You go
to a
one shop like Huduma Center. You have all these things. In government has digitized all its functions. We can easily utilize the same platform.
So I believe, for me, my conclusion on this topic is very simple. Publishing those rates,
scale of fees,
scale of fees, but rarely do you find even government itself
applying it.
Remember, government very conveniently has a different scale that they use.
Yes,
they have a different scale that they use. It's called a special scale for government, and it's even referenced in that document that they released that these scales of fees will be followed unless it's a government project which will be followed by. So I think that's essentially the problem. And the other problem we have is politicians. You remember the discussion that was in Parliament the other day, saying architects and quantity surveyors are very expensive. We require our money up front before the building is done.
We call out the money, the project money.
Look, we do the design work before the building is done. So a huge portion of our money needs to be paid before our construction goes to But I believe it's an ongoing discussion we can have. But I feel
for me, I also have a problem with... remember, the scale has, I think it's 950,000 if you do the computation. That's the money if you're supervising a project. That's the money you'll be paid in a month. Realistically, I don't think a client will pay you that amount if you're doing a small residential project. So much as it is descriptive, it is not enforceable.
I have a different opinion. I feel it is enforceable because I've, in my personal experience, encountered clients who come and say, no, this is a very small thing. Let's not even agree on percentage. Let's agree on time-based charges. And then you find yourself doing way more than what you had agreed.
Or so perhaps a lump sum.
So that is just to discourage the clients from going the hourly rate. If it's truly a small job, which will take you maybe a week to design and detail and get to site, then maybe you can agree on an hourly rate. But for those clients who try to be tricky, I feel like it's appropriate. Let them do that. When they realize they're going to pay you a lot more money, let them go back to the graduated scale of fees on percentage basis.
But I think the best solution would be the one that you described.
Yes.
Register this thing.
And of course, education. We need to educate our members that you saw the TikTok video by that lady who said,
and she works at the State Department.
What did she say?
Who said the architect's time is the most invaluable one. If you want someone to waste time,
you call an architect.
Those reactions are there in the market because we are devaluing our profession. I think let's value ourselves as professionals and
you see,
charge proper money.
Lawyers knew that they could not beat government, so they joined government. All their stuff is legal because government recognizes. We are trying to do this off government, and that's why we get it wrong. Tuingie ndani ya serikali, work with the government.
So
one thing for general public to know, if the work or the project is 10 million to 50 million for a new building, my rate is 6%. If the work is above $1 billion, but $1 billion to 2.5 billion, and I'm your architect, my percentage fee on a new building is 4.75%. And all in between and all above. Just for them to know.
Maybe a word the new scale of fees pays quality surveyors.
Yeah, they
Which is good.
They are paid, which is good for them.
they were at a lower rate.
Yes.
It was graduated upwards. Ours was maintained.
Ours is maintained. That's okay. But maybe they should have prorated it. In any case, the fight here is not the rate.
Yeah.
The fight is enforcement.
Yeah.
Which I believe Borak should be able to do.
Correct.
So we'll take a commercial break and then come back with our guest. Welcome again to the ArchiSpaces podcast. We'd like to introduce Terry from Space and Style, who have graciously hosted us today as we shot this inaugural episode of the podcast. And then just invite her to talk in general about Space and Style. Terry.
Thank you, Lutta. We are so excited to have you guys host your first AK ArchiSpaces here at Space and Style. I know we've worked closely with AK and will continue to do so. We have been in this market providing solutions and supporting building and construction for over 21 years. Initially, we were distributing DECRA roofing tiles. But of course, as a company, we've grown and now we are manufacturing, creating value locally. Since 2019, we've been manufacturing the Asili roofing tile right here. Asili is local product for roofing that is quite competitive in terms of quality. It's made of natural stone chips. You can harvest water with it. And we've seen very good results with from the few years we've used it in the market. So at Space and Style, we welcome you here. We have branches countrywide. We have a branch in Nanyuki. We have a branch in Kisumu, Eldoret, Nakuru, and our factory is based in Juja. Recently, we opened a branch here at Broadwalk, just to make sure that we are closer to our customers. One of the things that we want to provide as Space and Style is the knowledge and information to our customers. And we believe that the location of Broadwalk Mall and the offices provides that opportunity for any customer who is coming from even up country. You want to come, we're in Nairobi doing one or two things. I think Broadwalk is very central. It's very near Westlands, it's near town, it's near, the expressway. So for us, we feel it's the ideal location to fulfill our customer centricity pillar. Yeah.
Thank you, Karibu. I also understand you have likely steel as part of the products you produce.
Yes. Part of our sustainability solution, and I know as AK you're pushing for that as well, is to ensure that we reduce resources that are limited, natural resources like timber. And I know we are all talking about climate action, and one of the ways is to make sure that we reduce use of timber in construction. So we actually provide light gauge steel, which is a very good substitute for timber, and it reduces your construction time considerably and also the cost of the project. All we need is the roof plan, and we give you pre-assembled members that are very easy to fix on your roof.
I do note that you say this is you can harvest rainwater with this material. Maybe you want to just shed some more light?
The materials we use to make the roofing tiles are very safe, and you can use this for domestic use. When I mean it's safe is because the product itself is made of alu-zinc, so that means it will not rust, so your water will not have rust. We also make sure that the base coat and the rest and the top coat and the natural stone chips are actually safe for use at home.
Okay.
But when you connect the water, do you need to filter it out before you?
After you collect the water, then you'll treat it the normal way you treat water that you get from the rain. But in terms of what the water has, it is safe for domestic use. Yeah, there's nothing unsafe. We've tested it. There's nothing poisonous. We've done the normal test to ensure that the water is safe, so you can confidently tell that to your clients.
If I wanted to reach you, if I wanted to get your products, how can I get you?
Okay, we have branches countrywide. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a branch in Kisumu, Eldoret, Nakuru, Nanyuki, Juja, and here. You can visit any of our branches and have a look at the products. On social media, we're on Instagram, Space and Style, Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and you can also find us on WhatsApp.
So the handle is still the same, Space and Style.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn is Space and Style. X is Space and Style.
I also understand you have a loyalty program at Space and Style.
Yes, we do. It's our partnership with the built environment consultants like you. And it actually helps us have a good partnership that provides benefits for people in the industry based on your engagement with us. Yeah.
Thank you, Terry, for hosting us and for a cup of tea. Last time we were here, we were served lunch, sumptuous lunch. I just want to invite our members to visit Space and Style, all their branches, and they have a very beautiful space that they actually is open to our members. They can come and use it for their meetings.
Yes, they can come and visit, bring their clients, have short meetings with their clients.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said earlier, we are in a partnership and it can only get better.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you for making our Saturday better.
Karibu.
Yeah, so as we close this episode, I would like us to discuss some upcoming events for the Architects chapter. And this year, I think the Architect chapter publishes a calendar of events every year. And what we have left in the calendar of events this year is we have some activities planned around World Architecture Day, which usually happens the first Monday of every October. This year, that is going to be the 2nd of October, and we have a tree planting session that we have planned potentially at Ngara High School. We did a tree planting session last year, and it was under the Grow a Classroom project. So we'll do that in the daytime, and then in the evening we'll have a Twitter or X space just discussing topics about resilience and sustainability. Resilience, I think, is the International Union of Architects theme for this year's World Architecture Day. Now, Grow a Classroom project, as Waburiri initially said, is a project whereby we are helping schools to come up with, this reforestation, or we are growing trees within the school compounds, trees which they can later on use to create some of the infrastructure in terms of buildings. You saw how many wooden buildings you saw when we were in Europe, and also furniture and things like that. So that's the first event.
And carbon trading event.
Yes. And also, of course, to plug into the Africa Climate Summit themes and the Nairobi Declaration about the carbon trading. So the second event is the Sports Day, and I'm going to invite Waburiri to talk about the Architects Sports and Fun Day.
Yeah. Actually, it is Architects Sports and Wellness Day.
And Wellness Day.
Yeah, we have themed it around mental health. You realize architects do work in architecture as a profession is very stressful. Designing is not an easy thing. And so this year we have themed it around mental health. So the inaugural Architect Sports Day was last year. We held it at Kasarani, Moi Sports Center Kasarani, and it was a very successful event.
Very successful.
Very colorful. We invited members of the association. We also invited our partners in the industry, together with their families. And Stephen here brought his entourage.
Yeah, my kids had a lot of fun with the sports day.
Yeah.
I hope we'll have a bigger kids village this time.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna be bigger than last year. This year we are talking to our partners again. We are hoping we'll get partners from the banking industry. Traditionally, we do not have partners around that, but we are hoping we can have partners from the banking industry. So this year it will happen at ABSA grounds along Thika Road, and we are hoping to host 500 plus people. Yeah, bring your friends, tell a friend to tell a friend, bring your families, bring your kids, your girlfriends, your boyfriends, and I hope that we can have fun. We're also talking to other players in the medical industry who we hope they can come and give a presentation, medical camp, and also just discussion around mental health. Yeah, our former Senator Kasanga was very graceful to support us in a big way, and we are hoping to have many more partners around this. Yeah.
So essentially, we are inviting all members of the chapter, all members of the AK, so all the other chapters, engineers chapter, QS chapter, landscape, EDC, planning, to basically come and support the event. We're also asking partners to come. So if you have a contractor friend you work with, you have a supplier who they can bring a team or they can come and sponsor. Yeah. I think we'll put a flyer just right after the podcast so that you can be able to see the different rates that will be there for sponsorship. And then if you have even friends, just come and just have fun. Of course, we'll be having a kids village. We'll be having meals, I think.
Yeah.
And essentially, maybe you can run through private participation. If you, Michael, want to come as an individual, you can come and pay 3,000 shillings to participate for the, its participation and the meal. And if you come now as your organization, come and sponsor us.
Yeah.
As an SME, which you pay.
Yeah, there's a package for that.
75,000.
No, it's 50.
It's 50.
Yeah, 50. We reduced it to 50.
For SMEs. Anyway, we'll post the figure so that I don't want to under-advertise or over-advertise the event. But then you can come in as an organization, bring a team, play football, play rugby, basketball,
Yes.
The sack race. There's quite a lot of activities that happened last year.
And board games as well.
And board games as well. So just come and be competitive. It's the one day in the year which you get to come out,
decompress,
and meet people in the industry, meet other architects, and not talk about architecture but compete, have fun. Of course, we've been holding our golf events very successfully over the years.
20 plus years.
This year was, I think, the 22nd edition. But not everybody plays golf. Do you play golf?
I need to start.
A chair here doesn't play golf.
But I play rugby.
But he plays rugby. So, of course, the discussion was about, I play golf myself, but not everybody plays golf. So we've been having a very successful golf event, but then because people are dissociated from it because they don't play, then we felt it's good that at the end of the year we host now an event where all your other activities are there.
Catered.
Yes. So we encouraged everybody to come out.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention
the event.
The event happens on the 11th of November.
11th of November this year.
Yeah, we have kept it around the second week of November, and we'd like to maintain that. Thank you.
Good.
All right, I'd like to say a big thank you to Michael for gracing this episode as the inaugural episode.
Yes.
I also want to thank my co-host, Lutta here. Lutta and I have a long history of discussions around architecture. We're very passionate about architecture.
Yeah.
So thank you for gracing this episode. And I also want to thank Space and Style for hosting us, providing this beautiful boardroom for us to have this discussion. They served us tea, and I'm sure lunch is on the way.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Space and Style, and we hope to come back next time. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you members for listening in. As I say, this is a space for architects. That's why we're calling the podcast ArchiSpaces. So we'd like to invite you to join the channel, to subscribe, to send this link to your friends on WhatsApp and social media and what have you. And let's have this discussion ongoing. We're also inviting you, and we'll put an email below so that you can send in your content, send in your requests for topics that you want us to discuss. And if you'd like to feature on the show as well, as an architect, as a student, as a technician architect, as a contractor. You might be a contractor who's a member of the architects chapter. We're welcoming you to come and basically have this discussion. We intend this to be a space for everyone. So karibuni, and let's see you on the other side of social media. Asanteni.
We are live at Kasarani from the VVIP area for the Architect Sports Day. We are just about to start.
Maoni yako ni yapi kwa mchezo wa leo?
Maoni yangu ni ati number 1, University of Nairobi, the winners of this game. Kutoka chini hadi juu. It's not about the end goal, it's about the process.
Ni tialala.
Ni tialala.
Tibim. Kabisa.
Wala niache hiyo rest.